Alright, well, same crappy lighting that I had before. Not much I can do. This is how it is here. I'm just gonna, I guess today I'm just gonna tell some stories about things I bought and when I was at yard sale. A lot of them are from quite a while ago, but let's see. The penny bank. I bought a bank at a yard sale. I went into this yard sale. I was on my delivery route, and left this yard sale. I'm looking around, and I'm not really finding anything. And I walked by this statue of an Indian. It had a big head on it, and it was probably I'm thinking, yeah, maybe a foot high, something like that. And I picked it up and I kind of looked at it. It said 50 cents or something like that on it, and I just it was neat, you know. And I set it back down, and I walked around the tables. And as I got around the tables, I looked back at the table, and I, you know, not real observant. This, you know, I could see the back of this Indian, and right in the back of this Indian is a baseball player. I can't remember what team it was. It just had a name on it, and it turned out it was a mascot for a college team. But anyway, it had that slot in the back of his head where you would put coins in, and I thought, well, that's a bank. Oh man! And then some guy picks it up. He goes, hey man, look at this, and he's talking to his buddies about this bank, and he put it back down. I didn't mess around. I didn't waste any time. Went over, picked that thing up, and I bought that. A few other things at that sale, but I bought that, and I put that on eBay, and I really didn't know what it would sell for, so I put it up for $9.99 or something like that, something cheap. I paid 50 cents, so $10 would have been a good deal, and I didn't know nothing back then. I didn't hardly anything at all anyway. So put it up, and this what did it go for? $255, and the guy told me that was about top end. Some of me said he would have gone to $300 on, but that was pretty much top end for that one. And he told me, you know, gave me history on it. Told me it was from a college team, which I don't remember the name of it anymore. So, but it was really interesting. The Indian Bank was that was a good one. Let's see. I've bought a lot of neat stuff. I bought some Hubley. I think it was Hubley. Might have Hubley pistols. And I went to a yard sale, and there was these old cap guns sitting there, and I kind of had an idea that old cap guns were something. At the time, I wasn't even on eBay at the time. I was selling at that flea market, and I bought these guns, and they were cheap because I didn't spend much on stuff, so I think I spent a couple bucks, and I was kind of worried about that. I mean, it's only a toy, you know. It's only well, these guns had little bullets that actually came out and went in. I mean, probably wouldn't get those today. They'd be a choking hazard or something. But these were, I think they were from the 1950s, some kind of a Hubley. They were a decent size. I mean, they were probably that long, and it was a classic design. The design you still see today, kind of, only more intricate and more. It was heavier, much heavier. Was an old die cast, and it was much heavier. It was really nice. The mechanism still worked, and so I ended up, I actually didn't sell that on eBay. I actually sold that. I sold that for $45 at that flea market, which, you know, I made a lot of money on that. I probably could have made more on eBay at the time. I'm not sure where that market's at right now. I got away from that for a while. Pretty much, I got into selling a lot of books. I sold. I've made a lot of money on books in the past. I found at a Goodwill store. I found a copy of. It's the book that was written by, I think, Walter Lord was the author's name, and he wrote the book about the Titanic, when the Titanic sunk. And I think that the movie with that DiCaprio guy in it, I think that movie was based on his book. But anyway, I found a first edition of that book, and I leafed through it, and I there was no really smartphones or anything like that back then. I looked at it, and it was signed by him, but I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. I put it back. This Goodwill store would have been 50 cents for that book. I went home, it was on my delivery route, and I looked it up, and here the book was selling, because it was the same time as that Titanic movie had been out, so it was a pretty popular time. And the book was selling pretty decently without the author's signature. And I went back the next day, and that book was still there. So I couldn't believe it. I picked it up, took it home, and I started it like $9.99, and it went for, I'm thinking like $175. It might have been more. I can't remember for sure, but it might have been more than that. But $175 sounds good. It was a lot. I mean, it was a lot, and it was signed, so that was pretty cool. What's some of the other ones? My neighbor brought over a book. It was about the Shelby story or something like that. And it was about the guy that they did the Shelby cars for Ford. I think it was the Cobra and stuff like that. Well, in the book I think it was from the 60s. Might have been early 70s, I don't remember now, but he'd actually inscribed it. Shelby had actually inscribed the book and had signed it, and she brought it over and asked me to sell that for, and I get $800 for that book, so that was a good deal. And then there was one that came out of the blue, was by Albert Pacinter Hune, which he did a lot of dog stories, so a lot of books about dogs and stuff like that, kids books. And I went to a bookstore that was closing, and I spent thousands of dollars in this bookstore buying boxes and boxes. I bought 100,000 books easy at this when this bookstore closed, and I ended up selling this one book for $800. That Albert Pacinter book went for $800. I sold a lot of books. I mean, I made so much money on those books. It was, that was 2004, 2005, 2006 is when I was selling those books out, and so I mean that's really all I sold back in those years, was mostly all books, because that's what I got. I just had boatloads of that stuff. I got at a Goodwill store. I bought a little bottle for like 50 cents or something like that. It was a cork top bottle, and it had a shoulder, and on the shoulder of the bottle it said "Death Dust," and I thought, well, that's just neat. I'm buying that. So I just I bought that, and it sat around my house for a long time, and I forget what I was gonna do. I was gonna sell it at the yard sale, or I was gonna get rid of it. I had it it was there for a while, easy over a year, and I thought, well, I'll just throw it on eBay and see what happens. So I put it on eBay for $1.99. So I didn't know, Death Dust. I didn't know anything about. I didn't know a lot about bottles. I mean, I did end up finding out that it was probably what they call a bug bottle, which would have been a bug, it would have been like a poison for insects. So yeah, I put that on there, and that ended up selling for $270. And after it sold, somebody from Baltimore Bottle Book emailed me and told me that, as far as they know, they thought that bottle was probably one of a kind, as they'd never seen one before. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. It sure would have been a good idea to have one of a kind in the title, but I didn't know either. So, but $270 for 50 cents, that's a good turnover. That's not a bad. And I used to have a lot of that stuff. I bought a Stangle egg plate. Actually had a rooster like sticking up out of the middle. Ugliest thing ever. But it was nice in an ugly sort of way. I mean, it was really. I mean, it was a nice piece. It was a Stangle, and I don't remember the name of the pattern at all. But I'd know it if I saw it again. That thing, I bought that for $2, and I sold that for, it was over $100. It was over $100 for that, which was a good deal. What else was there? I went to, it was a Goodwill. It was at a Goodwill store. I bought a False Craft Heritage, the white, it's a white pattern, kind of looks heritagey. They were, what do you call they were not shakers, they were cruets, but they weren't the big cruet with the wide cruet. They were a smaller cruet. The opening on them was smaller, and I don't think there were any stoppers in it. Now, this is a long time ago, folks. I mean, this has got to be 2002, somewhere in there. And those things sold for $105. There's a pair of them, and I've never seen them again. And I looked, and I looked, and that kind of explains why I've never seen why they went so high. I assume because they must be really rare. I've never even seen them again on eBay, so there ain't a whole lot of them out there. Not that I actually spend a lot of time looking for them on eBay, which I should. I mean, I know people who bought stuff on eBay, turned around and relisted it and sold it just simply because they knew something somebody else didn't, and they had the right keywords in there. So, sorry, I'm just getting some coffee. I work third shift here, so it's quiet, but you get tired. So, hence my, and I can't pour milk for some reason. I don't know why. I always gotta have a little gerbil coming off the side of it. So, where were we at? The False Craft Heritage Cruets. I had a friend of mine calls me up and says he was at a yard sale, barn sale, and he found a little container with some old slot cars in it. And I thought, well, that's neat. And he says, well, the lady wanted $7 for them. I said, well, how many of them are there? He says, oh, there's got to be at least 10. I said, yeah, that'd be a good deal. You can sell them. Those will sell. I didn't really know how old they were, but he thought they were probably from the 1960s. So he ran back and he bought them and got them at this barn sale. And he brought them. And next time I saw him, he gave them to me, and I put them on eBay. And it turns out, two of them were Lionel. I think it was Lionel. They were vibrators. They actually, I guess they went around the track. They vibrated. They didn't have a slot in them. They didn't have a post to stick in the slot. I guess they just vibrated around the track. I think they were actually, I think, from the 1950s. And then he had some other ones too. And that $700 ended up being over $7. That $7 ended up being over $700 because just the two Lionels that he had sold for like $150 each. And this is a long time ago. Remember that? I mean, eBay was different back then. I don't know what that stuff goes for now because I don't spend a lot of time looking that stuff up. I know that it's good, so if I see it, I buy it. And if it's not as good as it used to be, it's not as good as it used to be, or it could be better. Hard to tell. Of course, now, I got my iPhone, so now I can look everything up as I go. So, boy, that would have helped out a lot back in the day, I tell you. That would have helped out a lot. It's funny, I used to call my wife from the Goodwill store, and I had my cell phone, I don't know if, I think it was a flip phone. It's one of those little Nokia ones, about that big, and I'd call her on the phone. I'd call her house, and I'd say, hey, hon, can you look this up? And she'd get on the old dial-up, and making that noise, and she'd get on there, and she'd look stuff up for me, and I'd be sitting there telling her, well, look this up, and she'd write everything down. Look this up, and look this up, and she'd write it all down, and she'd do the searches for me, and then she'd call me back and tell me, whether I should buy something or not. That was fun. That was a lot. It was fun. It was a good time. What else? I guess that's it for now. I can't think of any other stories to tell. I know there's plenty more. As they come to mind, I'll write them down, and I'll try to remember to tell you folks about some of the cool stuff that I bought over the years. And probably I'll leave the failures go. I won't be telling you too much about them, but except there was this one time I went to an auction, and I was looking around in this back building that they had at this auction, and there was a tray lot in there in this building, and it had a pedestal lighter. It had a lighter that actually had a pedestal on the bottom to set on the table, and it had a picture, like, not, I don't want to say embossed, but like it was stuck on it, but it wasn't a picture. It was like a little metal emblem or something you'd stick on there, and it was for one of the Apollo missions, and one of the the space missions. And I thought, well, that's pretty neat. And it had on the other side of it, it had the aircraft carrier that actually picked up that Apollo when it splashed down. I said, well, that's pretty neat. And I knew a little bit then. I knew Zippo was good. That's all I knew, was Zippo was probably pretty good. So I flipped it upside down, and it don't say Zippo on it. So I set it back down, and when the auctioneer came around toward the end of the auction, I didn't hit it. I just sat there, and I was gonna buy it because it was just cool. And he sold the whole tray lot for like $5, and I was gonna hit it, and I didn't. Duh. And I happened to, my neighbor actually knew the guy who bought it, and she told me that he ended up getting $1,200 for that. Turned out that inside the lid, at the top, it was all dirty in there, but when he cleaned it up, he cleaned the carbon out of the inside of it, it said Zippo. So yeah, it was a Zippo lighter. But yeah, that was a good story. It was kind of a crappy story. I could have, I'm glad that guy, it was good though. So, alright, yeah, I am. I'm actually done. That's good. I'll tell you more about it. I'll tell you more next time. Alright, talk to you later. Bye.